Welcome back to another edition of the Creator Spotlight. Today I have Kate Lilly with me. Hi, Kate. How are you doing today?
Hi, great. How are you? Thanks
I'm
for
doing
having me.
quite well. Absolutely. So you've been using cannabis for a little over 25 years now, and you work as a certified cannabis educator. What first drew you to the plant, and then how's your relationship with it evolved over the years?
Yeah, I first tried it when I was 15 out of a crushed up Coke can, makeshift pipe, in
Yes.
my friend's backyard with a group of other 15-year-olds just so excited. And I just loved it. I loved how it looked. I just connected with the plant right away. I just knew it was for me. It had these wild little red hairs on it. And we were lucky enough to get pretty good bud. I think it was perhaps someone's older brother. I loved it. I loved everything about it. We giggled, we had fun, it was uplifting. And I love to say I really felt more like myself than I had ever felt before. And I just knew that I was going to I've never been apart from it since. I've had it ever since, and we've had a relationship this whole time. And I just am as excited about it now as I've ever been. I think we've gone through seasons together, me and the plant, and there's been times where I've used it less or more, or, there's just been seasons. But now I really do use it pretty much every day. What I love to use it for kind of a mood boost. I use it when I take my lunch walk. It's really uplifting. It helps me connect with the outdoors. And I use it when I like do active listening for music. It really helps me pick up on like some of the subtleties in music that I really love and appreciate. I use it after work just for a little head shift. So it's really been part of my life, and not just a part of my life, a part of my life that I'm so excited about. If you know me, you know I love weed. I talk about it. I'm excited about it. And that's really what helped me realize that this is something that I should be doing with my life, because my hype is so strong for the plant, and I really do see how much it can help and how little it harms. And it's gotten
Hmm.
such a bad rap for so many reasons, but I really want to help people understand and appreciate it.
Yeah. So that story of the first time is very something I think a lot of people can relate to. So I believe my first time, I can't remember exactly if we smoked out of an apple or if we smoked out of a water bottle. But your experience with the with a Coke can and mine either with a water bottle, probably not the best thing to be smoking out of with the forever
No.
chemicals and things like that. But something that we can kind of all relate to. Another thing you mentioned there was connecting with the outdoors on your walks. So I use different cannabinoids and mixtures before I go and work out. I use a lot of minors. I don't always use actual THC, so CBG, CBD, whatever. But it's the same thing when I do have like my long runs, like on a Saturday or Sunday, where like I'm not going for pace whatsoever. I'm just going to go run 6 miles. I'll take a 5 milligram dose or whatever and go for a run and just stare at the ocean. while,
Yes.
while running, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, it's definitely something I can relate to as well.
Yeah.
How would you say that those early experiences have informed how you go and educate people today?
I think a big part of my message is that you can use this without your life falling apart, right? You can use
Hmm.
this and have it incorporated into your life. And the fact that I've been using it this whole time so consistently is proof of that. And I have a very, conventionally successful life. I have a 16-year career as an attorney. I have a house. I have kids. I have a marriage. A great employee. Like my life has been very conventionally successful. It will not fall apart if you're using this plant in an intentional way. So I think that was it. It was like a light bulb. The things that we've been told about it are lies. They're propaganda. They're meant to frighten us. And we don't have to. So kind of two things happened out of that. One is, don't believe what they say about the plant. It actually is a very gentle and beautiful ally. And two,
Hmm.
don't believe what they say about anything, right? You're being lied to about a lot of things. So that really, at a young age, that veil was lifted and helped inform my sort of critical thinking for the rest of my life.
Yeah. So you mentioned your law career there. So you kind of made a transition from that 15+ year legal career coming into this cannabis education. So what was that turning point that made you realize that this was the right path that you wanted to take?
It was a long time coming. So I still am an attorney. I still do legal work. I negotiate contracts for major organizations, and I help with supply chain optimization and processes. And I still do that. But it wasn't the love of my life. I sort of fell into it. I graduated law school in 2008. My intention in going to the law school was to help sort of in women's health area. The economy fell out of, the bottom fell out of the economy in 2008. You kind of held on to whatever job you had right then. And, then I started doing well at the job and it was steady. And then I started having kids, and sometimes it's nice to stay at a place that and it's stable and all of that. And so there's just a little bit of inertia that came with it. But as I matured in my career, then I was working for a hospital, working with their supply chain. It was very, very complicated. It was a very difficult job. And then COVID hit. And then, now I'm the sole supply chain attorney at the biggest hospital in the state. Extremely difficult. I have a remote kindergartner, at home with me, the whole thing, right? And it was just hard. And so I was just looking around being like, how did I get here? Why am I doing this? How did I get here? And in that sort of, self-examination, it just really dawned on me that just because I can do this complex job doesn't mean I have to do it. And I know it sounds simple, but it was very profound for me. We live in this achievement-based society. Get as much education as you can, get the highest paying, best job you can. That's success. You've made it. And nobody stops to ask along the way, what do you actually like? What lights you up? What makes you excited? What do you want to live for? Right. And so I started asking those questions way too late in life, but at least I did. But that's really what it was. It was like, well, what do you actually really love? And what I do for free is tell people about weed, get them excited about it, tell them what products might work for them. I know the entire marketplace. I'm a complete nerd about it. I read all of the daily, emails from which is how I found out about you and Herbal Profiles. It's like, I love reading about this. I read MJ Biz Daily. I read Entrepreneur. I read all of these every day. I visit dispensaries, all of this. So, it's sort of that, the concept of what would you do for free and can you make a living doing that? And that's sort of the analysis that I went through. So while I was still working, and as I was thinking, like, I'm just kind of done with this career after this amount of time and just need to do something new, I started taking classes at the Cannabis Institute, which was awesome. And that's where I got my certification, my certified cannabis educator certification. It's a wonderful, wonderful organization. That was in 2001. I launched my cannabis coaching business in 2021, excuse me. And then I launched the business in 2022. And I did one-on-one cannabis coaching for a while. I've since shifted from that. Now I have a website with educational articles that are beginner-friendly cannabis advice and product recommendations, really with the aim of helping people who are sort of new to the marketplace, new to cannabis, curious, open, but are really overwhelmed by the product set, by the lingo. They feel dumb going into dispensary. They don't know what to say. If that's you, that's who I'm here to help, is that those early stage questions. And here's how, what's a good product from a bad product, and how much should I take, and how should I expect to feel, and all of those things. That's the people who I want to help, because again, it's that introduction to how nice this plant can be if you start off the right way, on the right foot, with the right product in the right amount. It can really be wonderful. If you stumble in there not knowing, into a dispensary, imagine going into a liquor store, never having been in there, right? And you're looking around like, what's bourbon? Is that good? Right? Like, what's Jägermeister? When actually what you need is a Mike's Hard Lemonade. You know what I mean? So
that was my first experience. And I had consumed before. I definitely wasn't as knowledgeable as like I am now, like nowhere close. But the first time I went to the dispensary, I was in Denver, and I walked in and I was like, oh my God, this is like insane. And I probably came at it with more knowledge than the average consumer, just because I was producing a podcast at the time. In my full-time job, we recruit for cannabis companies as well. So not that I had in-depth knowledge, but I had enough. But I was still very overwhelmed going into a dispensary for the first time, and every other time since. It's not as overly pleasant experience.
Well, and it really depends on the bud tender you get, and they, a really good bud tender can explain so much to you and make you feel so comfortable asking questions and really meet you where you're at. And it's nothing against bud tenders. I love them, right? And they're in a high pressure retail situation. So sometimes, like any retail job, they're pushing the product their managers told them to push, or that's on sale, or whatever it is. That's just the facts. So knowing a little bit before you go in can help you advocate for yourself. That's really all it is. And if you get somebody who just, kind of doesn't care. And the other piece, almost, why should they care? We're not paying bud tenders enough for the expertise that we
Yeah,
expect them to deliver, right? We should be paying
correct.
them much better. And then they could provide a better level of service. They might care more, all of those things. So there's kind of some like structural problems with the whole thing, but it makes a big difference on your experience. And I don't want it to hinge on that one person. I want to arm you with all the information you possibly can have before you go in. So you at least, even though we know that the sativa indica hybrid designation isn't crisp and clean like we'd like it to be, it's something, right? So if you
Hmm.
kind of know what that is, or you kind of know what you're going for, or you know that it's not crisp and clean, so you should try a few things, that type of knowledge really helps people feel comfortable when they go in, and helps them walk out with the right product. This stuff isn't cheap. And if you feel like you've wasted your money, you might not go back. So
Yeah.
it's all of that.
So, sticking with that, let's walk through your approach when working with a new client. They've never used cannabis before. What's your process for helping them find their happy place and everything?
Yeah, I mean, and that is my website's, tagline. Let's find your happy place. That's what I'm trying to do, right? I'm not trying to destroy your life and make you a lifeless stoner. That's not what we're doing here. It's trying to make you feel better. So the first question is, why are you curious about cannabis? Is it because you have a specific thing you'd like to address? Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe you don't sleep well. Maybe you just want to relax after work. Maybe you just want to have fun. Maybe you want to swap alcohol for cannabis. Kind of what are those reasons? And that helps. That's kind of the first set of decisions and this, that we want to walk through. Then I talk to them about form factors. What do you want to do? Are you comfortable with smoking flower? Which I love, and I'm a huge advocate for flower. I'm still a flower girl at heart. Because it's all of nature's wisdom. It is the plant unadulterated. I'm a huge flower advocate, but not everyone wants to smoke. Okay, well, then we've got tinctures, we've got edibles, we've got, all sorts of things, beverages. So that's another sort of branching question. Then I suggest, I know a lot of products, right? I understand the marketplace, and so I can suggest things for them. I don't sell anything. I just direct people to the place where they can buy. But I might have very specific things. I might say, I really love this one-to-one fast-acting gummy from Wana. I think you'd like it too, based on what you're looking for. Try that, right? So I give them a few ideas. Stay away from that. You want to head towards that, some guidelines. And I also say, try a few things, right? Try something that's labeled sativa. Try something that's labeled indica. Try something that's labeled hybrid. See how they make you feel, and keep a really, really critical part. And I give them dosing information, right? So if you're new to edibles, 2.5 to 5 milligrams is where you want to be. You don't want to start with that 10 milligram piece. You don't want to actually accidentally buy a beverage that has 50 or 100 milligrams, right? That's for a different person than you right now, right? So those guidelines, and then keep a cannabis journal. Doesn't need to be fancy. I mean, there's some really pretty fancy ones from Gold Leaf, but it can be an app. It can be the notes app on your phone. It can be a little scrappy spiral notebook, but write down what you took, when you took it, how it took to kick in, how it made you feel, any other factors. What did you eat? Whatever you think is relevant to your experience, because that's the way you're going to figure out what works for you. This plant is so dynamic, and our bodies are so dynamic, and they dance together, and there's just not one right way to take it, and there's not one right product for everybody. So it's really keeping track of what works for you. That's really the critical piece. And then we check back in and we tweak it from there.
Just edible. So, like, my first time smoking was the summer after I graduated high school, and then I consumed fairly regularly in college, not like all the time, but fairly regularly. And then I didn't use at all again until I think I was 28, 29, something like that. And that was because the company I work for, we recruit in cannabis. And so I wanted to try some of these products that from companies that we were working with. I can't remember the brand. I think it was a Colorado based company. Regardless, I was told that 10 milligrams, the standard serving size for edibles, was like having 2 glasses of wine. I was like, oh, that's perfect. That'll be great. It was not like having 2 glasses of wine. I was on my ass. I was just laying down. So
Right.
yes, starting with two or five or even one
Yes.
is a great place.
And that's the number one rookie mistake that people do when they're using cannabis, is they just say, and it's that's the size that it is. You assume that that's the right dose. It's not anybody's fault, right? But that's what happens, and then it knocks you out, and you're like, that's not for me. I'm done. That's not for me, right? And so that's that's part of it too, is like getting that dose right. You might work your way up to 10 milligrams. You might never work your way up to 10 milligrams. That's okay, right? It's all about what works for you. Keeping people from that. My number one article on my site, like my number one visited article, is THC gummies for beginners. And it
Hmm.
lays all of that out. And that's where people are curious. And please read that before you try edibles for the first time, because it will give you some of those guidelines and what to do if you get too high and things like that. But it's so common, and to spare people from bad experiences is part of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I dislike about the general cannabis user community, if you will, especially like on Reddit and like Instagram and stuff, is like if you're not taking 50 milligram gummies, then you're a lightweight, you're a baby, and whatever. Like you're
Yeah.
a noob. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I take cannabis pretty much every single day, and there's nights where I'll take a 2 milligram gummy and I feel it. Like
Yeah.
not necessarily, I'm not like stoned off my ass, but like I definitely feel it.
Yeah.
And I rarely will take a 10 milligram anything. It's usually like I'll consume 10 milligrams, but I'll be like 4 or 5 2 milligram drinks, whatever. But that's something I dislike about the community sometimes.
And that's definitely very off-putting, I think, for beginners, for sure, which is the Cannabros. And it's like a frat boy hazing vibe. You know what I mean? It's like, if you don't drink this whole thing, you're worthless. It's like, that's just not, we don't need to do that, right? If you
Right.
want to do that, you go for it. That's your deal. I'm not here to regulate how much anybody takes, but it does not have to be that way. And I think that there is sort of a microdose movement, not proper microdose, because microdose is supposed to be subperceptual, but small dose, mini dose, right? A lot of cannabis brands are coming out with 2 milligram products. I love the mints, the Petra mints from Kiva,
Hmm.
amazing, right? Just a little bit, and you can just feel a little bit, right? Beverages are 2 milligrams, 4 milligrams. Love that, right? And that's kind of can help you incorporate it in a way that lets you kind of still be really present and not necessarily feeling super high. You don't have to listen to the bros. You just, period, you don't have to listen to the bros. They can listen to each other and they can out dab each other to the ends of the earth. But it doesn't mean that's how you have to consume.
Yeah. So you've described yourself as the productive stoner. Can you kind of explain, what that means and why it's important to kind of challenge those traditional cannabro stereotypes?
Yeah. I mean, the stoner on the couch eating chips, trope is what we've been fed. That's what happens if you try cannabis, right? That's what happens if you use it. And that's just not true.
Hmm.
It's not true for most people, I think, who use cannabis. It's very, very, very rare, right? And that person probably has some other issues, just like a person who overuses alcohol or whatever it is, right? It doesn't Using a little bit does not make you that way. So for me, I want to help people understand that, and I love using the phrase productive stoner, because I am using cannabis throughout the day and I am kicking ass at the things that I'm doing, right? It's helping me. It's helping keep me balanced. It's helping keep me creative. It's helping me uplift and get me excited to go on that walk and keep my body and brain connected and all of those things. It's helping do. So, and again, like, I graduated from a top law school. I did all of these things with cannabis, and your life is not going to fall into disrepair. And it's also a matter of, I want to reach the people who have sort of a high functioning life, and the reason they are afraid to use cannabis is they don't want that to all fall apart. I want to reach you because I know it can help you. And a lot of us are out here medicating with other things, right? Everyone's medicating with something. Everybody's medicating with maybe a pharmaceutical, maybe a few, maybe wine, whatever it is. And you can peel those back and just use a gentle dose of cannabis and feel just as good and stay just as productive. So, and I just like the way those words go together, because it does really challenge face on that stoner on the couch myth.
Yeah, you mentioned it helps you be more motivated to like go take that walk. And I'm actually writing about this tomorrow in my newsletter. Is the that intersection of cannabis and exercise. And while pretty much none of the studies say that you're going to like set any personal records or anything like that when using THC, pretty much all the studies have shown that it helps you be more motivated to go work out. So if you live a more sedentary lifestyle, like, but you want to be more active, THC can help you do that because it can make the workouts more enjoyable.
Right. And not to get too granular into the endocannabinoid system like a cannabis nerd will, but what's responsible for the runner's high actually is not endorphins. It's an
Yep.
endocannabinoid called anandamide. That's the bliss molecule. And your
Hmm.
body makes it naturally. And after challenging exercise, it makes even more of it. That's the runner's high. So if you're already taking in THC, which is mimics an anandamide in its chemical structure, right? They're almost identical. Your body makes something that looks almost identical to THC. When you consume it from the plant, you're just helping elevate all of those levels and you're feeling better while you work out. You have more endurance. Endurance runners are now really taking to THC to help them stay the course while they're on there, right? So it's real and you enjoy it more while you're doing it, right? So there's a big part of my message too is if there's no downside, then why not try it, right? I mean, the problem with
Exactly.
substance abuse is there's a downside and it has negative effects on your life. If this only has
Correct.
positive effects, go for it, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. The endorphins portion is something that is going to be in the newsletter tomorrow as well. So there you go.
Great.
And I actually learned this today when I was doing research in writing it. I knew it was, around the endocannabinoid system for the runner's high, but I didn't realize that they had found that like endorphins can't cross the blood-brain barrier, and so like it's not endorphins. And so I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So anyway, not to get all scientific and nerdy on everyone here, but you
But it's
mentioned,
real. Everyone, your body, it's not that just you react that way or just me. It's every mammal has an endocannabinoid system. Every mammal will respond the same way. So give it a try and see how you feel.
earlier about alcohol and cannabis either taking over or just helping people reduce their alcohol consumption or whatever that looks like for every individual. But what trends are you observing, and how are you using your cannabis sommelier education to push that forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've really felt a shift in people that I talk to, my friends, my community. Everyone felt like they drank too much during the pandemic and are just like, like, is there something else? And I don't like how I feel and I don't like being hungover. And it takes, as you age, it takes longer and longer to get over that. And, what else can I do that gives me that nice little buzz, but then it's gone and I don't have all these after effects. And so I think there's definitely a cultural shift. And there's sort of the wine mom and weed mom sort of things on social media. Not that they should be battling. I don't think anybody needs to battle, but how can we find a good alternative? And with cannabis beverages, which is really your specialty, I think it's so easy. It's such an easy swap, right? You're at the backyard barbecue. Instead of the can of this, you've got the can of pick your cannabis beverage. They even have like the little infusions. So like Balanced or Ripple or things like that have like a little powder that's flavorless that you can put into any beverage, right? So, so, so easy to create your own.
Mm-hmm.
There's also, edibles. Obviously, we talked about great. Don't go overboard, but great. Vaping, I see people doing a little bit more often, which is great because it's really easy and discreet and you can bring it, anywhere. I wouldn't recommend it as your sole consumption method. The cannabis plant is ancient. Vapes are new. I think the jury is still out on how they actually, how healthy they actually are for us. So occasionally that's fine. I wouldn't, again, do that. But I am seeing that. I am seeing people just a little bit here and there, just either adding THC to what they would normally drink, their backyard beer or whatever. Maybe a joint goes around, maybe you drink a little less, or maybe you swap it completely for a beverage. And that's what we did all summer. And it was awesome. I also make my own tincture that's a CBD, CBG, THC tincture that I'll just drop into a seltzer, a soda water or a tea or whatever to make my own cannabis beverage. So that's a nice option. I think it is just shifting. Alcohol is not going to leave us and go anywhere. There is, though, boy, this might be old news because there was going to be a Surgeon General's warning on alcohol going forward, that it's a carcinogen and all of this stuff. New federal administration, who knows? Very, very difficult to read the tea leaves on if that's going to happen. But that might sway people, right? I mean, that kind of data that says, hey, this is actually a lot less healthy than we thought, then people do make that shift.
Yeah, so a few things there. Vapes, I'm not here to harsh anyone's mellow, and science is still determining whether or not they're safe, but I have a hard time with vapes of just throwing all this oil into whatever uh, container and then inhaling it. I just don't think there's enough data, and I don't want to be a guinea pig personally. And then, so my hot take is that I would personally never smoke a vape. There's flour for that or other consumption methods. And then my other thought there was making my own. So I drink a hydration drink every morning before I go for my runs, and I do my own like water soluble like mix with CBD, CBG, and CBC in with it, and then every so often I'll throw in some either THC or THCV. But yeah,
You're
so
making
I'm ex-
your own
yeah.
tinctures? Nice. Yeah.
Well, no, I got some bulk isolated water soluble products.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was able to do that versus having to make my own
Mhm.
emulsifier and everything like that because you don't want it to just all sit at the top.
Mhm.
But kind of talking about all these things here. So let's end it with, where do you see that intersection of cannabis and wellness heading here the next, let's call it 5 years?
If you would have asked me a year ago this question, I would have been like, well, cannabis will be legal federally next year and hooray, right? And I don't think that's happening. Again, a lot of chaos right now with the new administration. It's really hard for anybody to predict, but it seems like the new heads of the DEA and the HHS are very anti cannabis. And so I don't know. I don't know what the future of the legal cannabis industry is right now. Lots of people are making lots of money. It seems like that should be the one compelling reason that they would keep it. But I don't know. Other people know more on that than me. So I think where I see it, that's all to say, where I see that going is a lot more CBD products. Some states are cracking down on hemp derived THC and other cannabinoids. Some states aren't, but CBD plain, CBD skincare, CBD bath bombs, CBD, salves for sore muscles. Really, those are great entry points for people who are new to cannabis and are maybe skeptical about it. If they have, a sore muscle and they put the salve on it and it's no longer sore, they're like, wow, okay, there's something to this, right? There is something to this. And so I think those pieces and those products that already exist, you're in the CPG world, right? Those products already exist. You just add CBD, right? But it does help in a lot of ways for a lot of things. So I think, to me, that's where I see it heading, because that's the safe bet for companies to get into. I don't see rolling back of 2018 Farm Bill making CBD illegal again. It's like the cat's out of the bag. Like, there's way too many companies. And I think that's what's difficult about the hemp derived market, hemp derived THC and hemp derived cannabinoid market too, is like, there's so many companies out there doing it. I don't know how you would regulate it. It's like whack-a-mole. Like, one, you can regulate one, another one springs up. So to me, that's already going. So and it's convenient because it can be shipped to your door. I mean, the difficult thing about the legal THC market is you have to be in a legal state. You either have to be a card carrier, in 45 of the states, and 25-ish, there's adult use, but you still have to go somewhere special. You have to, again, you're a little off put, and maybe you're embarrassed, whatever it is, there's a barrier. You can just order it online and it's shipped to your door discreetly. That's the way we all live now. So I definitely see things shifting that way, which is great. There's lots and lots of great products. I review lots of them on my site. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff to be had. I do, I wouldn't be a cannabis educator without putting out the call to, like, you have to do your research on these products. They're not all created equal. They're not all created with wellness in mind. They're not all created with respect for the plant in mind, right? There's lots of companies doing it right, and there's lots of fly-by-night shady companies. And so there's some key
Yes.
things to look for when you're trying to find a good quality product. And part of what I'm doing is I've already done the hard work for you. I already have the discernment to tell you which products are good. Just go with those. Don't even worry.
Yep.
Don't even do your own research. I've picked them for you. I've curated from the millions of things out there. I've curated what the good things are. So that's important going forward.
Yeah, and that leads us into the final here is, how can my readers and subscribers best support you?
Go to my website, kate-lily.com. It's got tons and tons and tons of useful information. Hopefully it's useful to you, right? I have an Ask Kate section where you can get in touch with me directly through the website if you have a unique question. I also have a Pinterest account at the Kate Lily, which again is really just kind of information from the website that's kind of put in that format, but people are looking for it there as well, if that's kind of one of your source platforms. But really, my website is the primary way, and I really, really hope it's of service. I really hope that it's useful. I hope you learn something. I hope you feel empowered to choose the right products for you and know that it will be okay and it can make you feel better and not worse.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kate. And until next time, guys, cheers.
Thank you.